The rain hammered down like 1,000 accusations, each drop stinging against her small frame as she huddled under the porch overhang. 11 years old. Backpack slung over one shoulder. Sophie pressed her key into the lock again and again, but it refused to turn. The metal scraped uselessly, mocking her confusion. Inside, the warm glow of lamps spilled out through the curtains, but no one came to the door. She banged her fist, called out, her voice swallowed by the storm. "Grandma? Aunt Olivia? It's me." Nothing. Just the relentless patter of water pooling around her sneakers. She didn't know it yet, but this was the moment everything shattered, the quiet betrayal that had been simmering for years, finally boiling over into something irreversible. I was elbow-deep in the chaos of the ER that afternoon. The kind of shift where time blurs into a haze of alarms and urgency. 3 codes in 2 hours. Blood on my gloves. And that bone-aching fatigue that clings like a second skin. As a nurse in a bustling Chicago hospital, I'd learned to compartmentalize, to shove personal worries into a mental drawer labeled later. But when my phone vibrated insistently in my pocket once, twice, then a barrage, I felt that twist in my gut. The one that screams something's wrong with your kid. I stole a glance during a rare lull. 8 missed calls from Sophie. My heart plummeted. Sophie wasn't the type to spam calls, she was the careful one. The girl who apologized to squirrels for startling them. I slipped into the break room. Dialed back with trembling fingers. "Mom?" Her voice was small, fractured. "The key. It won't work. I think they'd changed the lock." The words didn't compute at first, tangled in the web of my exhaustion. "What?" "Honey, try again. Maybe it's jammed." But even as I said it, a cold dread crept in. I did. Grandma's car's here. But no one's answering. I paced the tiny room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like a swarm of doubts. Stay put. Call Grandma's cell. I'll be there soon. But I couldn't leave, not yet. The shift wasn't over, and we were already drowning in patience. I hung up, promising myself it was a mix-up. Nothing more. Deep down, though, I knew better. My mother, Eleanor, had a way of twisting kindness into control, and this reeked of her handiwork. 2 agonizing hours ticked by before I could clock out. My supervisor's reluctant nod the only barrier between me and the truth. The drive home through the downpour was a frenzy of red lights and racing thoughts. Why would she do this? What had I missed? By the time I pulled into the driveway of our shared suburban home in Oak Park, Sophie was a sodden heap on the steps, her teeth chattering, eyes wide with a hurt that no 11-year-old should carry. I scooped her up, her wet clothes soaking through mine, and held her tight. "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm here now." The door creaked open then, and there stood Eleanor, cocktail in hand, her face a mask of feigned innocence. "Emily? What's all this fuss?" Her tone was light, as if we'd interrupted her evening ritual. I stared, the rage building like a storm cloud. "You changed the locks. You left her out here." She waved a hand dismissively. "We needed some changes around here. Privacy. You know, privacy." The word landed like a slap. Behind her, my half-sister Olivia hovered, her expression a mix of pity and glee, phone already in hand to capture the drama. "Mom, maybe we should talk inside," Olivia suggested. But Eleanor shut her down. "No need. Emily, it's time you and Sophie found your own place. This house is for family." The implication hung heavy. We weren't family. Not anymore. I didn't scream. I just took Sophie's hand and led her back to the car, the rain masking the tears I refused to let fall. As we drove away, Sophie whispered, "Did I do something wrong?" The question pierced deeper than any lock could. This wasn't a sudden storm, it was the culmination of decades of quiet erosion. The kind that wears away at your soul until you're left questioning your own worth. Growing up in that house, I was always the afterthought. The unplanned child from Eleanor's second marriage to my father. Robert, a dedicated surgeon who buried his affections in work. Olivia, 5 years my senior, was the golden one. Eleanor's daughter from her first marriage, showered with praise for every breath. If Olivia spilled juice, it was adorable clumsiness. If I did, it was careless mess. Robert tried to balance it, slipping me extra hugs when Eleanor wasn't looking. But he was gone more than present. Conferences, night shifts, the endless grind. I learned early to fade into the background, to earn love through silence and perfection. By 18, I fled to nursing school, craving independence. But life has a way of pulling you back. At 20, I fell for Sophie's dad, a smooth-talking salesman who promised the world and delivered abandonment. Pregnant and alone, I clawed my way through shifts and studies, building a fragile life in a cramped apartment. We were scraping by, but free until 3 years ago, when Robert retired and reached out, wanting to mend fences. His visits became lifelines, his bond with Sophie a quiet joy. Then the diagnosis hit: pancreatic cancer. Swift and merciless. Eleanor called, her voice cracking just enough to sound vulnerable. He's fading. Emily, you're a nurse, come help. So we moved in, telling ourselves it was temporary. Those months were a strange oasis. I managed his care with precision, while Eleanor played the devoted wife, her grief laced with something sharper: resentment that I was needed. Robert passed quietly, 3 weeks before that rainy lockout. The funeral was a blur of condolences and casseroles. But Eleanor wasted no time refreshing the house. She repainted his study a cheerful blue, installed bunk beds for Olivia's kids, erased every trace of him like he was clutter. Olivia and Ryan might stay more often, she'd say brightly, as if grief was optional. Soon, Olivia's family invaded weekends, their laughter filling rooms that once echoed with Robert's stories. Sophie and I became shadows in our own home. One night, I overheard Eleanor murmuring to Olivia, with rent so high, why not move in full-time? Emily was only here for your father anyway. The words festered, a silent wound. When I confronted her, she smiled that condescending smile. You've got your career. Time to spread your wings. Spread my wings like I was a bird she'd tolerated too long. Days later, the family lawyer, Alex Thompson, called about loose ends. In his oak-paneled office, he slid over documents that changed everything. Your father set up a living trust. The house is yours and Sophie's solely. I blinked, the paper trembling in my hands. Robert had transferred it quietly, excluding Eleanor entirely. A final act of protection. Perhaps from the favoritism he'd witnessed. I kept it secret, waiting for the dust to settle. But Eleanor didn't wait. She struck first with those new locks, banishing us like unwelcome ghosts. That night, sleep evaded me, replaced by a simmering fury that crystallized into resolve. Sophie curled against me in a motel bed, her breath steady despite the turmoil. By dawn, I'd called Alex. She locked us out. His response was calm, efficient. Bring the trust papers. We'll handle it. In his office, rain streaking the windows, he drafted the eviction notice with the precision of a surgeon. You're the trustee. She's got no claim. An hour later, we parked discreetly down the block. Alex approached the door, umbrella shielding the envelope. I watched from the car, heart pounding. Eleanor answered, her posture regal, then crumbling as she read. Olivia joined, snatching the papers, her shouts piercing the storm. Alex remained unmoved, delivering the blow, 30 days to vacate, or face enforcement. As he returned, he said simply, "Served. Expect pushback." Pushback came swift. Eleanor's lawyer fired off claims of forgery, undue influence, painting me as the villain. But the police report I'd filed that morning detailing Sophie's 5 hours in the rain as child neglect tipped the scales. The judge granted emergency possession in days, denying their stalling motions with a stamp that echoed like justice. The eviction morning dawned gray and unforgiving. I left Sophie at a friend's, shielding her from the spectacle. Deputies arrived at 10 sharp, their knocks authoritative. Inside, chaos erupted. Eleanor's indignant protests, Olivia's theatrical sobs, Ryan's blustering threats. "This is elder abuse," Eleanor shrieked, pointing at me from the doorway. The deputies read the order impassively, 15 minutes to grab essentials. They scrambled, knocking over lamps, stuffing bags with clothes and trinkets. Olivia clutched photos of her kids and one of Robert, pilfered from his desk. Eleanor emerged last, pausing to glare. "You'll regret this, Emily. Blood is thicker than paper." Her words hung, but I felt nothing, just the weight lifting. As they drove off, the house stood silent. Mine at last. Inside, traces of their haste lingered, a forgotten scarf, an empty wine bottle. I flung open windows, letting fresh air chase out the staleness. Victory? No. It was survival, laced with the ache of what family should have been. 6 months on. The silence is golden. No contact. No pleas, just peace. Gossip filters in. Eleanor crashed with Olivia post-eviction, only to ignite fresh wars, rearranging furniture, imposing rules until Ryan bolted after a lockout of his own. Now mother and daughter circle each other in tense cohabitation, their spats spilling online. As for us, Sophie and I thrive in the quiet. She's planting herbs in the yard, giggling about how things grow without the shouting. The house breathes easier. No locks changed on whims. But the scars remain, Sophie's occasional nightmares of that porch, my lingering doubt if I went too far or not far enough. Revenge isn't sweet, it's a bitter necessity. The price of reclaiming what was stolen. In the end, family isn't inherited, it's forged in the fires of betrayal, emerging stronger, if a little scarred.